They already call you cold. Not to your face, behind your back. Detached. Distant. Hard to read. You think that's a flaw. You've been told it is. You've been trained to believe warmth equals strength, that openness builds trust, that emotional availability creates connection, that belief guarantees failure. Because in hostile territory, warmth is not safety, it's exposure. Cold is not the absence of feeling. Cold is the refusal to leak. Most people never learn the difference. They assume being cold means being cruel. They assume distance means insecurity. They assume restraint means fear. That framing is false and dangerous, because every system of power, from empires to offices to relationships, runs on the same rule. What cannot be read cannot be controlled. This is not about being rude. It is not about pushing people away. It is not about acting superior. It is about becoming structurally unexploitable. And once you understand why being cold works, you will realize how often warmth has been used against you. The world you move through is not moral. It is psychological. People do not reward goodness. They respond to positioning. They don't ask, is this person kind? They ask, where does this person stand? Above, beside, or beneath. Most people misinterpret behavior because they assume sincerity is the currency of human interaction. It isn't. Predictability is. The more predictable you are emotionally, the cheaper you become. This is the internal-external split most never master. Internally, emotions exist. Pressure exists. Fear exists. Desire exists. Externally, none of it is owed to the world. The arena does not care what you feel. It reacts to what you show. Smiles are signals. Anger is a signal. Explanation is a signal. Coldness interrupts the signal chain. History understood this long before modern culture tried to moralize it away. Machiavelli wasn't praising cruelty. He was documenting survival. Rulers who were emotionally legible didn't last. They reacted publicly. They reassured allies. They explained decisions. Every explanation drew a map of their limits. Enemies didn't defeat them with force. They waited for openings. Cold rulers lasted because they withheld access. They were not loved. They were respected. Not because they demanded it, because no one knew where to press. Coldness, properly applied, is not aggression. It is insulation. There are laws operating here whether you accept them or not. The first is emotional scarcity. When you are emotionally available to everyone, your responses lose value. When you are selectively cold, your attention becomes expensive. People pay attention to what they cannot easily reach. Most people fail here because they confuse warmth with connection. Connection is not emotional flooding. It is controlled access. The second law is projection dominance. When you give little emotional data, others fill the gaps. They project fear. They project authority. They project intent. Projection works in your favor when you don't interrupt it. The moment you explain yourself, you destroy the illusion. The third law is containment. Coldness is not the absence of reaction. It is the containment of reaction. You feel anger. You feel insult. You feel pressure. You do not export it. This is where average people collapse. They believe expressing emotion is honesty. They believe suppression is unhealthy. They believe distance is weakness. Those beliefs are social conditioning, not strategic truth. Coldness creates asymmetry. You observe while others reveal. You absorb while others discharge. You remain intact while others fragment. This pattern repeats everywhere. In corporate environments, the emotional employee becomes manageable. They vent. They explain. They react. Their behavior becomes predictable. The cold employee becomes dangerous. They speak less. They document privately. They adjust quietly. They are not confrontational. They are untrackable. Managers don't fear emotion. They fear ambiguity. Socially, warmth invites consumption. People overshare. They overreact. They seek validation. They become familiar. Cold people are not familiar, they are referenced. Others talk about them instead of through them. In relationships, emotional overexposure collapses polarity. Explaining feelings repeatedly does not create intimacy. It creates leverage for the other side. Coldness restores gravity, not through neglect, through consistency. Now here is where most people misunderstand the concept. There is one final danger in being cold. Coldness without structure becomes hostility. Distance without discipline becomes bitterness. Many people try to become cold as a performance. They withdraw emotionally but remain internally reactive. Their silence is loud. Their tension leaks. This is not coldness. This is instability disguised as restraint. True coldness is calm. It is emotional sovereignty. You do not need to be understood. You do not need to be liked. You do not need to be validated. You decide when access opens and when it closes. This collapses the false binary. It is not warm versus cold. It is not open versus closed. It is exposed versus insulated. Warmth without control exposes. Coldness with discipline protects. Once you embody this, the environment adjusts. People slow down around you. They choose words carefully. They hesitate. Not because you are threatening, because you are unreadable. Unreadability creates caution. Caution creates respect. At this stage, you stop chasing outcomes. You don't argue narratives. You don't correct misinterpretations. You don't rush to clarify silence. You allow gaps. And gaps do work for you. Most people cannot tolerate this phase. It feels lonely, it feels unresolved, it feels unfair. They return to warmth just to end the tension. That is the final test. Being cold means you accept misunderstanding without correction. You accept distance without apology. You accept that not everyone deserves access to your internal world. There is no applause for this. No moment of validation. Only a shift in how people orbit you. Pressure decreases. Noise moves elsewhere. Energy stops draining. You are not loved more. You are taken seriously. The open question is not whether this works. It is whether you can remain cold long enough for the system to adapt. Most people break. Some don't.